thrilled to have Tai here today. And as I mentioned on Sunday, I wear two hats at CTL. One is to be responsible for the Latino Leadership Initiative, but I also am responsible for the Gleitzman Program in Leadership for Social Change, which is kind of a range of offerings connected to community organizing. We work with Marshall, with social entrepreneurship, with a lot of work in that space. And one thing that we've never been through within this program before is any notion of kind of social innovation. Tai has been a very trusted study leader for us at CTL for a number of years now. Has also worked extensively with the EdLP program, which I know some of the mentors are members of. And we just love him. And he has actually just moved to the West Coast, but is kind enough to come back to spend an afternoon with you guys. And so I am going to turn it over to him, but I just have to say that not only does he have an impressive biography, which is in your packets, but also we take him very highly as an instructor, and I hope that you'll enjoy spending some time on this topic today with Tai, and then eventually we'll take a walk over to the Harvard iLab, Innovation Lab, to see a little bit about how we kind of take this notion of social innovation and work on it in a hands-on manner at Harvard. So welcome to Tai, and enjoy your lunch. Thanks.
All right, folks, feel free to be where you're at, eating, enjoying your lunch. As you are looking at me, you're probably wondering where the Esteban comes from. My mother is from Quito, Ecuador, and my father's from Bangkok, Thailand. So I share the Latino piece with you folks. I also have something in common with each and every one of you that are part of this cohort in the room today. And that is, each one of you is coming from 5 states. I've lived in Massachusetts for 6 years. I just relocated to Los Angeles, California, where I drove across country 2 weeks ago in a cargo van full of all of my stuff and hit a thunderstorm, a sandstorm, and hurricane tornadoes in Oklahoma. That was a lot of fun. So that's Massachusetts, California. Last weekend I gave a talk at NYU. In 2 weeks I'm going to speak at Florida State University. And last but not least, I went to my hometown last week, Houston, Texas. So the Tejanos in the room. A little bit about my background that I share with you folks. I want to share also something else that's personal. You know, I've sat where you folks have sat many, many years ago when I was an undergraduate. Unfortunately, this LLI program wasn't in existence, but I've had similar opportunities. And what's exciting about these types of opportunities, and as you've seen over the week, is that you feel both empowered and you get sort of tools to move forward in life as a leader. Not just as a Latino leader, but just as a leader in society. And that was helpful for me because I grew up very poor. And that was the stigma I attached to myself, and that was the stigma that my friends attached to me. So at 14, when my father and I were squatting in an abandoned building in Los Angeles because we had nowhere else to live, and I would be sleeping on the concrete floor, I knew then and there at 14 that this is not the life I want to have for myself. It's not the life I want my family to have, and I'm going to do everything I can possible through education to overcome this, right? So you see me now with this sports coat with the patched elbows. You know, all this was through a series of incidents of education, work, education, more work, right? So I've been a student here at Harvard for 6 years. And now it's time to go back into the workforce. And one of the exercises I'm going to have you folks do, it talks a little bit about identity, which you folks have had a lot of exposure to this week. So that's really good. So that's a little bit about myself. A little bit about this presentation that I'm about to offer is in social innovation. This is just a funny cartoon, it has nothing to do with social innovation. I just thought it sets a lighter tone. The way I present is I do very little lecturing. Okay, the reason I asked for this room is because there's going to be a lot of individual and group activities. Right? So the first 12 minutes is lecturette, and then we break off into different exercises. Right? In order for that to happen, I like to have a very dynamic dialogue with you folks. In order for this to be dynamic, it needs to be interactive. So feel free to ask questions, push back, disagree, right? All these things are important to our collective learning and my personal learning. The second thing is a request from me. And the request is, if you have a comment, in order for me to acknowledge you in this space, just please say your first name so I can acknowledge you. So, any questions before we begin? All right. So, at the turn of the 19th century, there was a very famous Japanese artist by the name of Katsushika Hokusai. And Katsushika Hokusai decided to embark on an artistic journey. And he was curious about the thing that's been in front of him and his people and his country for millennia. And the thing was Mount Fuji. And what made Katsushika Hokusai interested in this artistic journey is asking himself, how can I see this thing that's been in front of me my whole life from a different perspective, okay? From a new lens, from a different angle. Okay? So here in this picture, you see artisans drawing Mount Fuji from a distance. In this next rendition, you see that Hokusai presented Mount Fuji inverted in a pond as geese are flying over. And yet another rendition, you see rice farmers sort of closer to Mount Fuji near the base. And yet in this last two out of many renditions that I'm going to show you, on your right, you see Mount Fuji through banners flying in front of a home. On your left, can someone tell me where you see Mount Fuji? Please, name? Amy. In the mirror, yes. In the mirror, reflected by a medicine man holding it as he's leaning up against a tree. At this point, you might be asking yourself, Tai, what on earth does this have to do with social innovation? And I say it has a lot to do with social innovation. One of the things that you folks are embarking on is creating this school project, community service-based project as you go back. My job is to help you think about it in innovative ways. Many of the speakers you've had before me have talked about this in a couple of different ways, be it negotiations or even being with the story of Self by Marshall Gans. The way I think about social innovation is looking at it at the way Katsushika Hokusai thought about it with Mount Fuji. From a different angle, from a different perspective, with a new lens, both yourself and the community project. So one of the things we're going to talk about is introspection. You've done a lot of that in just a short amount of time, I would imagine. Okay? So in order to be innovative, I ask you first to consider yourself, right, and how you're innovating your own image. The second thing we're going to talk about is imagination. Thinking outside the box is an element of social innovation. The last element of social innovation is impact. Thinking about how your community service project can be both sustainable and can be self-sufficient on its own. Okay? So we're going to be talking about this. Incidentally, I'm giving my PowerPoint to CPL, so hopefully we'll get this to you folks. So what the agenda looks like for today. Little busy, but chock full of activities. And the first one is we're going to do a little introspective exercise. We're going to talk about a hanger. We're going to talk about the Red Cross. And at the iLab, we're going to talk about your own personal project. Okay. Incidentally, I just finished my piece of the lecturette. From this point on, it's just activities. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Great, good. Plus, after eating, you get food coma, so you don't want your folks just be sitting there for the full hour. All right. The first one is introspection. That's one of the first three of the I's that I think are important to think about when I think about social innovation. Is thinking of yourself. Now, you folks just went through a couple series with Marshall Gans. You can't go through a course with Marshall Gans and not be impacted by that, not be emotional, not be tearful. So I think this builds a little bit off of Marshall Gans's work. What you have in front of you is a sheet of paper. who am I? Are you folks familiar with this? By the way, has anyone done this before? What? Admin? Perfect. You can have my copy. Anybody else? Perfect. Hands up, please. Perfect. Yep. Anybody else? Perfect. All right. So who am I? This is a personal exercise that you're going to do. And it starts off with putting your name in the middle circle. Nice, big, and bold. I'm not going to collect this, but it is going to be both an individual and group activity. I'm going to give you folks 1 minute to write down 4 different identities you hold for yourself. You're going to put one in each of the 4 corner oval boxes. I guess they're not boxes, they're oval. But in the 4 oval compartments, you're going to put in 4 identities. The first 3 will come easy to you. The 4th one might be a little bit more challenging. But I'll give you folks a minute just to write down an identity that you hold for yourself in each of the 4 different compartments. Yep. And I'm going to do this with you folks also. So go ahead and take a couple moments. Go ahead. How do you identify yourself? Perhaps how do others identify you? This is where the Jeopardy theme song comes in handy. All right, I'll give you folks a couple more seconds. It's helpful, incidentally, to go with the first thing that comes to mind, because it so happens those identities have some truth, some weight to it. All right. When you're finished, this is what we're going to do now with this sheet of paper. I want you to fold it in half. Doesn't matter if it's lengthwise or other, because then you're going to fold it again into 4s. So you did it half, and then now it's going to be into quarters, the sheet. So it looks like this. Right. Fold it in half, and fold it again. What it was. This is what we're going to do next. You're going to hand it to the person sitting to your right. The person receiving, do not open it. Yep. Okay. Fold it in half, and then fold it again. And then I'm going to share my report, which is technically yours, right? Okay. All right, folks, without looking, because the temptation is really there, I want you to, the person who now has a new sheet of paper, you're going to cut off, you're going to tear off a quarter, basically one of the circles. You can open it a little bit, but it's basically you're tearing off 1/4 of the whole sheet of paper. Try not to open the whole thing, but basically, I'm going to open it for you, just to show you what it looks like. I guarantee that perfectionists in the room are creasing the paper, making sure that the lines are perfect. All right, I want you to quickly tear up that quarter sheet that you have, and everybody throw it in the center of the room. People in the second row, try not to hit me or the people in the front row, but everybody just throw it in the center. Throw that quarter sheet, not the 2/3, the quarter sheet. Crumble it, throw it in the center. Okay? I guess I should stand out of the way. Now remember, please try not to open it. But after you're done, I want you to hand it back to the person it belongs to. Okay? The person who it belongs to, I want you to open it. Take a look at the quarter sheet. One of your 4 identities that's gone missing. I want you to reflect on that for a moment. How does it feel like to have that piece of yourself no longer there? Can someone share hand, raise hand so I can call on you? Name, please. Adriana, please. How does it feel not to be Mexican anymore?
What would I be?
What would she be if she wasn't Mexican anymore? That's deep. That's very deep. Did you have your name?
Yeah, I did. Sarah.
Sarah,
I was
thank you.
looking at it and I said it wasn't me anymore. It's an intrinsic part of like that thing.
All the other 3.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yes. In the back, please. Your name?
Yvette.
Yvette, thank you.
American.
You said American. How does it feel not to be American anymore, though?
Free.
That's deep, too. Michael.
I chose the one that took out was student.
Student. How did that feel?
What would I be when I was a student?
Where would you be if you weren't a student? That's a good question. What year are you now?
I'm about to be senior.
You're about to be a senior. So next year, you're going to be asking yourself this question. Name? I got it. A woman. What does it feel like to no longer be a woman?
I don't want to be a
We won't touch that right now. In the back, please. Name?
Amalia.
Amalia.
I am a philanthropist. I love to give back to my community, and I think that I'm not that anymore. I don't have a meaning in life. I don't have any purpose anymore.
You might not have any purpose anymore. The downside to these types of exercises is that we can talk about this, right, all session. But I want us to go through some others as well. One of the purposes of this exercise, which I normally incidentally give the purpose at the beginning, but I didn't want to take away this, is what does it mean to hold on to these identities that you hold? Right, well, what missing for me was mentor. I've been a mentor to 4 Latino youth in Los Angeles for 15 years now. That I hold very dear to myself. Seeing them go to college, seeing them very successful young men, has been one of my greatest privileges. To have that taken out is very painful. Okay. For some, it can be liberating. What I'm going to propose now is to suggest that in order to innovate on a project, you also have to think about innovating your own persona, your own identity, characteristics of who you are. I think it's brilliant and okay and wonderful to hold on to certain characteristics. Don't let go of those things that make you who you are. What I will suggest is this, and in your conversations with mentors, RAs, observers, visitors in the room, other faculty, is I encourage you to have conversations with them and ask them, how has your identity evolved over time? I guarantee 9 out of 10 that it has evolved. It does change. Because come next year, you're not going to be a student. You might come back at some point. But come next year, after your senior year, you won't be calling yourself a student as you're going back to grad school. Right? I believe your identity changes over time, and it doesn't hurt to innovate. You're going to have job titles. You may become a guardian or a parent. You may be an inventor. And all these things are now new components of who you are and that make you who you are. So that was the first exercise. Any thoughts, questions, or comments about that? Please, name.
My name is Abel.
Abel.
The one that was missing for me was Dominican American, like a lot of my friends here. But what was great to me is that that was the only thing that was actually really grounded. The rest are very conceptual, and it left me feeling like less carnal. It left me feeling like this idea, like everything else is just an idea.
It's pretty powerful when you wear your dominant identity on your sleeve. I opened up with telling you I'm part Ecuatoriano and I'm part Thai, right? That's important to me. It's no longer a dominant identity I hold for myself because I also hold other things now, but it's still important nonetheless, right? And so it'll be interesting as you folks finish this LLI program, go on to your respective schools and your lives to see that evolve over time. And to wonder if that's something you're okay with, your identity evolving like that. So the first one is your identity and thinking about this from an introspective lens. That was the first exercise. The second exercise is innovation. Yeah, you can hold on to the sheet of paper because you're going to need your scratch with you. And thinking about social innovation, you have to be imaginative. You have to think outside the box. Use your imagination. This, my friends, is a coat hanger. Yes, we all agree. It's not a magic trick. It's a coat hanger. You're going to have 1 minute on your sheet of paper, and you're going to have to use the entire minute to use your imagination and come up with anything and everything you can do with this coat hanger. Any questions before we start? Please. Your name? Julia. Anything you want. Coat hanger, 60 seconds, time starts now. You're going to use that entire time. Tell me all the things you can do with this coat hanger. And if your brain gets stuck, power through. Power through. Anything that comes to mind, write it out. I'm not going to collect this. No one's going to judge you. I will judge you if you say you can hang a coat on. 20 seconds. Ten seconds. And time. All right, put your pens down. That must be interesting, huh? When you have a time limit to use your imagination on something. What I want you to do is, this second part of the exercise, feel free to get up. You're going to talk to one other person. There might be one of you that's a trio because there's 41 of us in the room in this cohort today. You're going to get up. You're going to go find someone you haven't really talked to throughout this institute. You're going to have 1 minute to first share your list. The other person's going to have his or her minute to share their list and talk about what you folks came up with. And if you come up with new stuff, talk about that also. But in 2 minutes, I'm going to then regroup us, and we're going to share what we talked about. Feel free to get up, talk to someone new. Would you rather really talk to All right, so let's get some ideas. What did you find interesting from yourself, your list, from your group's list? Anything interesting about what to do with a hanger, please? Name again. I got it.
Okay, for me, the first thing that came to my mind was open a card. So I did 1 week kind of like using the card. I had to use a hanger, and when I was talking to the middle here, I was like, hey, what do you think about the abortion? Which I think is very interesting. So I wanted to explain what
Could you repeat for the backbench?
Yes. So I've said she used it to open her car, and from experience, twice she's already had to use a coat hanger to open her car. And she was talking about how her colleague Homero talked about how women have used a coat hanger for an abortion. Do you feel comfortable with that?
No, it's just like very sickening to imagine.
And yet it's true, isn't it? It's very true. It's okay to sit with that comment, folks. It's okay to, folks have had that experience, I'm sure, in Dance's class about that. Any reactions to that? Or maybe other ideas? Please, name please.
Nico.
Nico.
So maybe as a contrast, so like that, if you have no, like, I don't know, IV, maybe make it
few goals to like hand the idea, but they don't have money to share what.
So IV drip bag holder?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, any other ideas or thoughts? Please.
Yvette?
Yvette?
I did write that as well because it is a fact of life. It has happened. And on a lighter note, I wrote bubble wand.
Pardon?
A bubble wand.
Oh, bubble wand. Yeah. Yes. A bubble wand. That's interesting. Well, how would you shape it?
In a square.
In a square. I haven't seen a square bubble before. That's pretty interesting. Name, please. Daniel.
Also on the more saving your life issue, if you're, let's say there's a fire and there's a cable that you need to escape, you could put the brother to it, you can like try to shake it so it doesn't come out, and then you can hold on to it and just jump on the building.
I like that idea, brother. Let me tell you. If it's this hanger that I'm holding up, I do not want to be with you. Being rescued. This thing is not going to hold all 160 pounds of me. But anyone that's in the back, please. Lester, thank you.
I'm gonna say the opposite of Daniel. And I thought about all the different ways you can kill somebody with an anger. And the reason I thought of this, you know, it's a tool, right? Like all the stuff we've learned, how to motivate people and do things like that. So it's important to be conscious that if we're not careful, we can do things that can result in things like being killed or even literally people being killed.
I agree. Yes, I appreciate you both explaining. And I'm glad I'm not sitting next to you. Sarah.
Yeah, last year I thought about that how you can use the hanger as a foundation for a kite. We've gotten a lot of leading courses that have taught us to have a strong foundation in whatever we go back in our community.
Yes.
And the other parts of the kite can actually be how we can adapt to flexibility and challenges that we face.
Brilliant. I like that. I appreciate that you were more on the lighter side than your neighbor. Now I'm switching the conversation just slightly. How was it during that first minute alone to have a full minute to write down everything you can do with the coat hanger? How was that experience in the moment and when I said time is up? Any thoughts? Anything that comes to mind? Rafa.
It was challenging just because you were aware of the time, so you kind of balanced two ideas at the same time, that creative side and the side that you're behind.
Did you feel like you were able to use the full minute?
No.
What was that like? In the back, please, name.
Jose Luis.
One more time.
Jose Luis.
Jose Luis.
I actually didn't feel like I felt pressure to use the whole minute. I wrote down all my stuff maybe like 40 seconds, and then I was trying to think of something else.
Anyone else have that? You hit a wall? Anybody else? Thank you for your honesty. Interesting, huh? When we're asked to be creative, imaginative, thinking about leadership, the possibilities of our own identity, and we're limited. You know what? I only need 40 seconds. I don't even need the full minute. And now I'm stuck. What do I do now? Help me out. What are the tools? Research has shown at the University of Michigan, this comes from the innovation book by Laird, that when you task people with a question, think of all the ways you can use transportation in Los Angeles, California. Teams come up with 4 answers. Okay, things that are already popping in your head right now at this very moment. Using the bus, using your bike, using the train, and using your car. But then when the same teams and groups were tasked with the question, how can people use transportation in Manila, Philippines? They come up with an array of ideas, right? Helicopter, hot air balloon, right? Zip lining, boat to going around, right? You see where I'm going with this? When it's your context, and it's your dominant thing that you are familiar with, it's hard to be outside the box. And one of the things I'm asking you to do in this session is to be imaginative and thinking about social innovation. So for example, if you're going to do a tutoring school program, well, I'll be honest with you. Been there, done that. I actually started a tutoring program 16 years ago, California Witch. Been there, done that. What's going to make it, and we're going to get to this on our third piece, what's going to make it unique? What's going to make it impactful? If you're no longer the head, will it still continue running? So imagination, what else can you use with the coat hanger? Well, this artist packed it over 10,000 coat hangers, right? It's not a model, by the way, in which coat hangers are over it. It's actually, if you zoom in, they're just compacted, they're stacked up. And she was able to twist it and turn it, and it's sitting in the museum. Thinking outside the box. Being imaginative, the second eye. We ready for our third final exercise for today? When thinking about innovation, we think about impact. All right. In our third exercise, you're going to get into teams of 5. One of you is going to be in a team of 6. I'm going to show you the protocol and steps about what we're going to do here. But let's talk a little bit about Red Cross. In order to be innovative on your program, the thing that you're going to initiate when you go back, the community service project, it's helpful to think about the thing you're addressing. Right? I don't know if I'm sure you've heard this from previous presenters this week, but in order to resolve a problem that you face both in yourself or in your community, you have to really understand what the problem is, right? You ever argue with a parent and it's just going in circles and you're like, wow, they're not getting me at this right now, or I'm not really getting them. You know, what's the real problem? You know, what's the real issue there? So this is the American Red Cross. They've certainly had a huge impact in society, and one could argue globally. This is what we're going to do. When you get into teams, and this has to happen rather quickly, you're going to find 5 to 6 people to work with, preferably new people as well that you haven't met. You're going to very quickly assign 3 roles. A scriber, someone to do some note-taking, preferably someone who can write fast. A presenter, and a timekeeper. Timekeeper has a very important job because she has to, or he, make sure that you follow this protocol to the T, or else we'll go over. You're going to answer 2 questions with respect to the American Red Cross. El primero es, what types of problems does the Red Cross respond to? In this 4 minutes, scriber, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take down everything the person says. Other team members, we're not discussing, we're not critiquing, we're not judging. You just, the first thing that comes out, any member, just keep going and the scriber write it down. You have up to 4 minutes to do that. And then the next 2 minutes, you're going to pick as a group, and this is where you can have a dialogue and discussion, is talk about maybe 2 to 3 of those problems that the Red Cross addresses, maybe why they were founded. Okay. Your next 4 minutes, you're answering the second question. So how do they achieve this long-term impact? Have you thought about it? What exactly does the Red Cross do? You know? And how do they do it? How do they respond so quickly, if we can even call it quickly, to crises? Okay? Again, in this 4 minutes, scriber, write down everything everybody says. There's no comments, there's no critique, let the ideas flow. Okay? And in the following 2 minutes, you're going to pick your top 2 or 3 ways from this discussion how they achieve long-term impact. Okay? And we're going to conclude, each group is going to get 1 to 2 minutes, preferably 1, to talk about either some of the problems you came up with as a group, but what I'm really interested in is how do they achieve long-term impact. And then what we're going to do is make some observations collectively about what each of the teams came up with. Thoughts, questions before we start? Okay. Yes, please. Beatrice.
For the 4 minutes when you're just talking about ideas, is it 1 person at a time or everyone?
Everyone talking, just scriber, make sure you can get everything down that sort of gets thrown at you. Good question, thank you. All right, folks, come find 5 people. 1 group is going to have 6. please try to assign scriber, presenter, timekeeper as you guys move. Use up all the space in this floor. The front, the side. All right, feel free to stay with your team, or if you've had enough of it, you can walk away from your team. So each presenter from each of the teams is going to get an opportunity to talk about a couple of things. A, you can talk about the process of how your team functioned. How did you collectively, individually decide, your top 3 problems, your top 3 ways of impact? Feel free to also talk about some of the strategies, tools that the Red Cross employ to make sure they have a lasting impact in the things that they're hoping to resolve. Okay? So any way you want to start us off, presenter, and end it, by all means. Each group can get about a minute and a half to talk. Which team would like to go first? Okay, we'll start with this. Name, please.
Oh, we're a team also. No, sorry. My name's Abel. So we just started kind of throwing out different ideas. We had an incredible group here, describing the timekeeper, and what we started doing is just listing all the things that first came to our mind, like things like saving babies, things like negotiating leadership, and things like that. And the top 3 we decided on pretty organically were natural disasters as the first.
I don't know. Sorry. They're gonna need a mic.
Yeah, it's like a...
Yeah. So natural disasters as the first, poverty as the second, and volunteerism as the third.
When we started talking about how they achieve this impact, we decided that they first instill a healing, restorative hope, which is unwavering and it can't go away. So it needs to be impactful and long term. They share knowledge sharing. That can go from communications, raising awareness, and making sure that everyone's on the same page. That includes training. And then third, they organize. They do a lot of organizing, and that mobilizes people and creates something sustainable that they can step away from after the immediate need and have it continue.
Perfect. Next group, who would like to speak on behalf of your team?
Go, Michael.
Go, Michael!
Okay, my name is Michael, and our team, we did exactly what you gave us in the instructions. We took a minute to sign goals, describe, presenter, timekeeper, and our top 3 we decided was disaster relief. For example, there's a tsunami, different events like that. Epidemics, which includes diseases, and also no money. A lot of times it's a nonprofit organization, so it doesn't have the money that it needs, so it has to do a lot of fundraising. And the top 3 ways that it achieves impact, first of all, is global partnership. It knows lots of people that are willing to give money to help out. And one of the reasons why we're out here, education. In educating people, that knowledge they give to them stays with them. And as they do that, they train others, which is the third part, such as training CPR, different things like that. And in that way, it just multiplies, and everybody keeps that knowledge.
Good job. Next team.
Well, my name is Carolyn Rosado. And the problems that are that we believe the Red Cross responds to is organ trafficking, relief efforts, specifically with war and with natural disasters, as well as the need for blood and organ transplantation or donations. Impacts, strategies that the Red Cross usually use to help the community is fundraising, volunteering, inspires by selling hope, using marketing and branding. And that's very much so just networking in general for a long-term effort, as well as passing on education internationally and nationally.
Next, please. Name.
My name is Stephanie Hernandez. We are Team Cruz Roja, And the problems that they respond to are such as starvation, dehydration, malnourishment, pretty much responding to natural disasters, like some that were mentioned, tornadoes, tsunamis, etc., earthquakes. Another problem would be the medical and health issues, so they provide medicine attention, and when someone has a disease or injury due to the natural disaster, they provide that assistance. Another problem is the lack of knowledge or education of safety, and they don't know how to respond to these natural disasters, so they respond to the lack of knowledge and education. The impact would be fundraising, so there's sustainment, and there's campaigns and awareness, so they can recruit people and keep the organization strong. Another impact is the international relief. They have volunteers and they create leaders. So this is how they can assist people, and that's the impact that they have, helping other people. The other impact is they restore community and economic stability. So when they respond to the issues, the impact that they have is letting these people continue with their lives and continue working, continue on through getting the medical assistance and the safety training so they can know how to respond. So basically, they impact them in ways where it's literally saving their lives and letting them continue to live.
Everyone with us, from Humans Boston. So one of the three problems that the Red Cross faces is rape and women trafficking. And one of the ways to solve it is by giving counseling to victims of rape. The other problem was blood and organ shortages. And basically what it does is, the way to solve it, they have blood drives and blood banks and natural disasters. So they create infrastructure in developing countries, and they create new technology to anticipate and prepare for natural disasters.
My name is Francisco Patiño. Well, three of the main things that we found the Red Cross does is they address the problem of blood shortage. They're usually and continuously working to recruit people that want to donate blood for those in need. In addition, they also work with community refugees and war zones, so they provide those resources for people in need. Finally, they also help during natural disasters. Whenever there's an earthquake, tornado, they're there to help the community. Three of the forms in which the Red Cross achieves their long-term impact is they are continuously present for the community. They are present as well in many countries. They are a self-sustained organization, and they have a logistical structure which engages the community per se. Where I come from in the RGB, they appeal to the people, and the people themselves involved in raising funds for the Red Cross, because in the end, the Red Cross supports the community. That's it.
Other teams? Yes.
Hello everyone, my name is Danny Echeverry. I'm here to represent Team HEAL. So some of the problems that we came up with include natural disasters, epidemics, and war. Some of the long-term impacts that we found the Red Cross to have on the community includes working within those communities and understanding their problems, having well-trained staff and leaders that will help heal the community and provide them with services, as well as being a committed and reliable organization. The long-term impact, the top three okay, and the top three things that allows them to impact the community include having good sponsors, whether it's volunteers or having blood donors, having great international relationships so that they know who to contact with whenever there's an emergency occurring, and having, again, well-trained professionals to provide those services. Thank you.
We have another team remaining, please.
Hello, my name is Juliana. And in our group, we are created the problems that Red Cross responds to are man-made disasters, natural disasters, and refugees in war. And the ways they achieve long-term impact is through the support of volunteers components and effective allocation of resources.
The last one was that.
Effective allocation of resources.
Effective allocation of resources. Thank you very much. How are we doing? One more group? Okay, that's everyone. Very nice. So, in our remaining few minutes, let's have a discussion. What did you hear? And make some observations of what you heard from other groups, maybe your own group. What did you hear?
Amy?
Amy, what did you
There's a
hear?
lot of overlap as concerns the problem is the structure of things.
What happened?
Relief, natural disasters.
Natural disasters. Okay, good. So some people heard some overlap. What else did you hear? Thank you. Name,
I think one that I like the most.
name please.
Balthazar Credit.
Balthazar, thank you.
Was international relations, like the relationships, which is what they, something they really do have.
Sure, international relations. So which of the two buckets does that go to? Problems, impact, and impact. Okay. Others, what else did you hear?
I noticed
Steph.
a lot of common differences, a lot of commonality in problems and a lot of good things. But then when it came to achieving impact, there was a lot of different ways of doing it.
So some people had an ear for the differences in achieving impact. Do you remember any, Stephanie, or other people?
Well, I hadn't even thought about the blood transfusion or donating all that, or the organs, or how they help with those different things I was like,
Yeah, that's important. Having sort of continued number of blood donors, both here and worldwide. What else did you guys hear?
For the most part, Sabrina. For the most part, we all hit on the points and the right points and said what they do and how they do it. And I think that speaks to why they're successful. That's because this awareness is amongst us here. And you know about it.
Great, I like that. So what I hear you say is that as a result of you folks being able to point out both the problems that the Red Cross is hoping to address and also the forms of impact for sustainability, that must mean they're doing something well, right? If you folks are able to name that. All right. You know, one of the things that I observed is, yes, there's some overlap, but there's a lot of nuances, subtle nuances to ways that people thought about the impact. Okay. Some of the things I heard was global partnerships. I heard leadership pipeline, right? I heard blood banks and donations. Okay. I heard fundraising, right, to stay afloat. Okay. So the point is, one of the points out of many for this exercise is if you really understand the problem, right, then you're then able to address the problem in very innovative ways. And if you heard from your classmates here, there's a myriad of opportunities to explore those innovative ways. Right? One of those ways that you can do that is, was it hard or was it easy for you as the scriber or you as a team member to just throw things out and not have a discussion for those 4 minutes and just hear everyone's idea? How was that? How was the experience of working in the team? That's the second big takeaway I want you folks to have with the exercise. How was the experience working in the team? Be honest. It's okay. Hopefully it's a safe enough place. Nathan.
I was sitting out there for the first exercise and my mind got blocked. When I worked as a team, I see the impact of working as a team. There were twice or 3 times as many options on the paper as I had when I was working by myself.
So more ideas coming to fruition when you work collectively. Yes, please.
In addition to Anna's comments, when one team member would state something, the other team member would develop on that same statement. So at the end, it was a better idea.
As a result of working collectively. Yes, I like that. Any other comment? Working as a team, how was that process? I'll take you and then
Sarah.
Sarah.
I think because of this week, there was such a level of comfort that it didn't matter who we teamed up with, and everybody just felt really confident to figure out whatever they had to say.
Boy, for the observers in the room, isn't that nice to hear that you can work well in teams? Isn't that really nice to hear? Let me break a myth for you folks right here, right now. Working in teams is not intuitive for us as human beings and as adults. It is not that intuitive. It actually takes a lot of human relationships, negotiations, both with each other in the room at the time, and a lot of work outside before you can meet and work in teams for that to happen. So I'm really glad to hear, Sana, that you worked well in this setting. Any other thoughts, comments?
My name is Dairo Leon. She was a subscriber, and I was basically telling her ideas. And I was telling her ideas, and she was a subscriber. And I just felt really comfortable because I was just telling her everything that came to my mind. I wasn't overthinking it. I wasn't planning ahead of it. I was just telling her what I was thinking at the moment. And I felt like it was really easy for me to just come up with these ideas like that.
I like that. I appreciate that honesty. Overthinking. We sometimes limit ourselves in a space where there's other bright, brilliant people in the room, but we don't want to comment because we have all these anxieties and fears of not sounding smart, not sounding good enough, not sounding like our accent can cut it and make it, But the more we practice in getting it out there, the more you realize that as a team, you come up with a better product, right? But it's sort of letting go of those anxieties as you get to know your other team members. Final comment, please.
Personally, I'm sorry, Abel. Personally, I felt in the beginning we had to sort of rationalize things to each other as we were throwing them out, and I think as we started getting into the urgency and the exercise, we started going faster, and we picked up the pace. So I did notice a little explanation attached to some, and then we started dropping that in right.
That's good. I appreciate that. There's also something along those lines. Abel, there's something along the lines of when you have time constraints, right? And in meetings, you always have a time constraint, right? So you got to think about what goes in the agenda. So I just want to recap what the point is for these exercises. Close this out before we go to the iLab. I think of innovation in this context for LLI in 3 ways. And these are your 3 ways. One is introspection. You've done a lot of that over the past 4 days. I also think about it in terms of being imaginative, getting your ideas out there, thinking outside the box, right? And then I also think about it in terms of impact. When you go back to any one of your home states and you come up with an idea, which you folks are going to be presenting tonight, so no pressure, right? I want you to think about, and we're going to have time at the iLab for you to get in teams, I want you to really think about what makes it impactful. You've heard different ways that your classmates and your colleagues have said the Red Cross is sustainable and long-term. I want you to think about what's going to make the program that you're going to instill back at home, what's going to make it last? What's going to make it sustainable? How is it innovative? How is it new? How people are going to be learning as they come through your program? When we go to the iLab, I'm going to give a brief 10-minute tour. It's going to take about 10-15 minutes to walk there. I will warn you, it's hot, so we'll sort of take our time. We'll try to take the pathway that of least heat and resistance. But I want you to think about Kotsushika Hokusai. And I want you to think about your own journeys that you're going to embark on. The thing that's been in front of you your whole life could be identity, it could be minority status, it could be education, it could be poverty, it could be supporting your family, it could be being in love in a relationship. Anything. It could be your community. Are you going to change your community? If you were a Red Cross member. Yourself. Thinking about this from a new perspective, a new lens, a new angle. That to me is at the heart of social innovation. My favorite 2 words in the English language is curiosity and vulnerability. Vulnerability. Curiosity and vulnerability. The moment you let the fire die down from curiosity and being vulnerable with yourself in relationship and teams in life, you end your artistic journey. Because to not be curious as a leader means that you have all the answers. And I encourage you to have deep and wonderful conversations with mentors, RAs, observers here in the room, people you know back home, maybe your own personal mentors, maybe members in your family, of that journey that they've taken, curiosity and vulnerability. as you see yourself grow, your identity, the things that you're going to do in life, stay curious about who you are, the people that you work with. That, to me, is at the heart of social innovation. Folks, it's been a wonderful pleasure. I will see you folks at the iLab as I take you over. So thank you very much.